Does Squid Game season 3 kind of suck? Listen, I've been wanting to make this video. I've been holding off on making it for like about a week since I finished Squid Game or whenever it came out. I just kind of like got a little bit busy and then ran out of time, but I still want to talk about it. Still want to talk about it. So we are going to talk about Squid Game season 3. Um, yeah, it's a bit disappointing, honestly. I don't know how you guys felt. Just heads up for anyone, there will be spoilers in this video. I'm talking about it as, you know, someone that has seen it, two people that have also seen it. So if you have not seen it yet, do not watch this video. We are going to be talking about spoilers here. But yeah, just getting into it, there's just so much in here that's just like kind of not to like. Like it's just the biggest problem I have, I think, is there's a lot of buildup of things that like they're building up in season two, even from season one. Just like really a lot of things that were built up, just no payoff. Like where does it come from? It doesn't happen. Nothing happens. There's so many things that they like try to create. Sorry, there's a fly here. There's like they and it's just never comes to fruition. Like they build up all these things. Like the biggest one is, okay, we're just gonna talk about a lot of individual characters. Or first, like we can talk about some of the good stuff because it wasn't all bad. It wasn't like it was just like a terrible season. It was just very disappointing in a lot of ways. But what we can talk about first is, yeah, some of the good stuff. I think the first half of this season is actually quite good. The second half is where it really falls off. Like in the first half, the games themselves are still exciting. Like you have the whole arc with Guhun trying to get revenge on what's his name, Daeho, I believe, with in the knife game. And I just thought the whole game was amazing too. Like the set design on that is incredible. Like it just looks great with all the stars and everything. That game's really fun. It's a really good way to kind of make hide and seek into a death game, which so that's actually a lot of fun. I really like just like the general creativity of that game and also how it pits a lot of the cast against each other. Like that to me, that episode was like the um what's it called? The marble game. That was like the marble game of from season 1. That was like this season's edition of that because we had a lot of our characters first of all get pit on like different sides of each other and then also be like a lot of the actual important characters that we all like liked and like cared about and were invested in. And it also really it showed that was where like a lot of characters' true colors really got shown. Like that was one of those games. So I think there's a lot of similarities between that and the marble game in season 1. And it was also where we lost a ton of characters. Like so many of them died in that one, just like the marble game did, because it was just like a lot happened. Like there was a lot going on in that one. So we can talk about how I don't remember her name, like the lady player 120, where she gets killed by player 333, who I have a lot of words for later. Um, but that was really interesting. I thought that was a good ending for her. Like not a good ending in terms of it actually being good, but a good ending in terms of like impact on the viewer because it's like, really all she ever did was like was good, and that's like part of what just happens in Squid Game. Like these just like great characters just die, like, and it's just not fair, and that's just like life. It's not fair. So that was like an interesting ending for her because like she literally basically carried them the entire time. She helped deliver a child, like everything's going on. She beat up like killed like three dudes that were like trying to fight them, like and then she literally had the chance to leave. Like she was at the end and she went back, to save her friends and then died for it. And that was crazy. So yeah, that was really interesting. And then of course the impact of having it be player 333, that was the one to do it. I'm not going to talk about him yet cuz I just wanted to get that through all at once. But yeah, that was really interesting. And then we had the conclusion to the arc with the mother and the son, and it was the same thing pretty much with his arc again, where it's he had a chance really to kill someone, like, but he couldn't do it, and it's the same thing that had been shown with him the whole time. Like, his weakness was always there. He was honestly too nice of a person. And then it got to the point where he had no other choice. And then he finally had to try and kill somebody, but he refused to kill his mother. So then he tried to, he had tried to kill Junhee, and his mom wouldn't let him, and then ultimately resulted in his own death. And then her death too, because she literally had just gotten her son killed, so she ended up, committing suicide, and yeah, that was a pretty impactful ending for both of those two characters as well to the end of their story. Um, of course, yeah, we do see, and another thing, right, is like there's just like again, this is now we're getting into some of the negatives again. It's like what I want to do is just kind of talk about like arcs for certain characters, and I'll talk about the general overarching arc. This video is not really meant to be structured in any way. It's just me sitting here talking, so it's not going to be very it's just going to be kind of like a rant almost. But yeah, like and the thing is like with characters like Minsu, like we just don't really get a payoff with him. Like, you know, it would be cool if he went through an arc where he finally kind of had to overcome his fears and what caused that girl that had been protecting him to die and everything and all that. And we just don't really get that. Like he ends up just becoming kind of like he just they all just replace each other. Like, Thanos has the drugs, and then I don't remember that other guy who then takes the drugs after, and then Minsu ends up collecting the drugs in the end. And then it's like they all just kind of become the same character where like they need the drugs in order to actually perform in the games. And I just found that to be really like just a really diminished way of like ending his character arc. Like he just kind of he needs those drugs. Like it would be cool if he actually became something and really got over those fears on his own, but that just doesn't happen. So that's something that's like just kind of lame the way that ends. And then he ends up just like being on drugs and killing himself because or like not killing himself, they kill him, I guess, but he just kind of lets it happen because he sees her. And it's just the whole thing. And it's like we've had to sit here and just watch this guy and kind of hope he was going to eventually have like this character arc where he finally overcame those fears, and that just doesn't really ever happen. So it's just another like lost arc because nothing really happens there. Um, we'll talk about Junhee. I thought her ending was pretty good too. Like, she was really there just trying to protect her daughter, and it is crazy. It is an absolutely crazy but very interesting decision that they had the baby be born during the games. Like that is absolutely nuts. I can't believe they did that, but it did make for, interesting television, so we'll take that. But yeah, that was insane. I don't really have much to say about her. Like again, it's just like the arc she went through just kind of makes sense. It's just like the baby gets born, and you know, she never really was the strongest character or the smartest, but she was there and she was trying. And a lot of her friends helped her through the games, and once they were gone, there wasn't much she could do, especially with like literally a broken ankle. So she did meet her end, but she was able to have her baby be protected before that happened. So she got the baby into that mess by entering the game, and she got it out. So that's good. I mean, she didn't really get it out herself, but she was able to create a scenario in which the baby was out of there. Um, yeah, so that's that. And then just talking about like we can talk about 333 now, I guess, because he is the father, he's the baby daddy. So I don't know, dude. Like this guy is so it's really interesting. Like he was interesting. He's a very interesting character to me because he was like he was on two different sides, like where you could tell he did actually truly care about Junhee and the baby, but at the same time, he really just was a greedy bastard, and that's pretty much what got him into the games in the first place. Was just that he just was a really greedy guy. Um, But I just thought his character was really interesting because you're trying to kind of balancing those two things where like he's not really a completely awful person. Like he truthfully does care about his, I guess, girlfriend at the time, not really anymore, but like and his child, but at the same time he really just wants the money. Like he really all he wanted was just that money, and the season kind of keeps you guessing, which side of him is going to come out here, because you can tell that both things are true at the same time. That he does care, but he also is really just greedy. So it's really interesting. It was an interesting watch. It was actually one of my favorite characters. Just because it was really interesting to see like which side of him is actually going to be, the side that wins out, and like what aspect of his personality is really going to truthfully like show up here in the end and be, like what we see, what dictates his actions. Um, the thing with him though is like the only thing I do kind of criticize, and I guess it's at the same time it does kind of make him more interesting, but they just had so much going on with him. Like there was just too much. There was no reason to. The character was like bloated. Like you know what I mean? Like he had the whole crypto scam thing. So then Thanos and the other dude like hated him, and then he was like the father of the baby, and so then she hated him, and then he was just there, and he was like, he's a pretty smart guy in the end. So then he ended up, being like making it pretty far to the end of the games. But like that was the only criticism I really did have, was that there was just so much like going on with this guy. Like he had the whole crypto scam thing, and then he had the baby thing, and it was like, wow, they couldn't have split that. Like they couldn't have had two multiple characters that were on that, kind of that had those arcs. Like they had combined them into one. There was like just so much going on with this guy, and I guess that's kind of part of it. Like the crypto scam was just like him being greedy, and that's what got him into the mess. And and you, it was shown that like she didn't really like him, and he probably just was pretty shit to her outside of the games, and that's why she never really liked him in the first place. And even when we get to the games, he kind of shows himself to be a bit of a piece of shit, because he ends up killing player 120, and when all he had to do was kill one player and find her, and he got greedy because the other guy was like, oh, what if we killed a bunch of people, and he was like, oh, let's do that. So it's really interesting. I really don't believe at the end of the games that he was going to kill the baby. Like I think he was bluffing to get Guhun to, just to make it easier for him. Like I don't think he really was going to kill his child. Like in the end, I think he probably would have made the sacrifice, but it was just obviously Gihun's just not going to let that happen, right? So it was just really interesting. His character was really interesting in general. Like I said, like it was really interesting to see all of that balanced, where he does care, but he really is just like a greedy bastard in the end, right? So you never really know what he's thinking or what he's gonna do. Um, Another thing I didn't like was that he was also shown to be a very smart character, and at the end of the games, they kind of took that away from him. Like he was so smart leading up, even really inside of the last round, he was still very smart, and it was just right at the very end where he just became an idiot, and he just stopped caring about anything. And he was like, "Oh, we're just gonna kill these guys. We're gonna kill these guys. We're gonna kill these guys." Like he killed the old man, and then he was like, "Oh, Gihun, you go over there." Like he's not thinking about the thing. They don't press the button. You know what I mean? Like he's just so many bad decisions in a row, like bad decision after bad decision, and it just makes you wonder, like, this guy was supposed to be one of those really smart characters. Like that's how is he not thinking this through? Like why is he being so stupid? Because if he just hadn't killed that old man, like I honestly do believe he wasn't that greedy enough to the point where that him and Gihun and the baby could have just split the money, and I think he would have been totally okay with that, especially because I mean in that instance the baby is literally his baby, so he basically gets two shares in that sense. But um, it was once he realized one of them had to die that he got scared about it, and he didn't trust Gihun anymore. And again, that's also idiotic, because then either one of you or the baby has to die, and I don't think he was thinking that part through. But whatever, I'm just not gonna say anything about that. Um, yeah, it was just weird that he lost his ability to like be smart and critically think, right? But I guess that is kind of what had happened to him throughout the games, and maybe that was the point they were trying to make. Is of course it is a Squid Game, right? And it's like you're literally dying, and you have a bunch of money on the line, and people lose their composure in these circumstances. And I think maybe that is what the writers were trying to show there, because it happened in the last game too, or maybe not the previous game, but the one before that, where with the knife thing, where he said, I'm gonna get my kill, and then I'm gonna go protect Junhee, and then he got distracted because he got greedy for the money. Like it could be just that that's kind of his whole character. I might have to watch that again if that continually happened to him. That it was like that was what they were trying to show with him, was that he's smart, he's a smart guy, but he he gets a little caught up in stuff, and then he loses that. He loses his composure, and he starts making bad decisions. And that might be what they're trying to show. Honestly, that could be entirely what they're trying to show. Like that's kind of what it's like with the whole crypto thing too, right? Like he probably was quite rich at the start, and then he overextended himself into this crypto, and it crashed, and that's where he ended up. So maybe I don't know. As I'm talking myself through it here, I'm kind of realizing that could be the whole point that they're trying to show with his character, is that even sometimes like some really smart people, one if you get too greedy, you can lose sight of what's important and what's actually the right decision. So yeah, that actually it's pretty interesting. Definitely actually was one of my favorite characters. Not in terms of like I thought he was a good guy, but just really interesting to watch as a character. It's like the kind of like the Song Woo of um, this iteration of the games. But obviously, I think most people liked Song Woo a little bit better. I know a lot of people hate this guy, and it makes sense. It definitely makes a lot of sense to hate him. I don't really like him in the sense of, like I said, enjoying him as a person, as a character. I just thought he was really interesting. And then another thing I want to talk about is now the. Okay, what do we want to talk about? I'm kind of done. Let's talk about these two as a pair. There is so little payoff on both the arcs of the frontman and of his brother, the detective. I am so disappointed. That was one of my things that was the most exciting to me in both season one. Like I think he was probably, other than Gihun, was my favorite character, was Junho, the detective. And in season three, I was so excited for that arc of him finding the island and everything. And that is just one of those things that I was referring to, where there is just no payoff. There is no payoff at all. He he literally finds the island, and he spends a total of like less than half an hour, because there's a genuine timer like that you can see, so you can tell that he was there for less than half an hour on the island, and he does nothing. He goes and he finally finds Inho, and he sees him holding the baby, and he shouts, why did you do it? And then, bro, his brother just leaves. He does nothing. He doesn't They get no closure. They get no interaction. They don't even talk to each other. If they at least had a conversation, it could be interesting, like in some way where he got some sort of closure, or he got something out of him where he would just go like, "Oh, like dude, like why'd you do it?" And then, he at least found out why or something. He literally never finds out anything. There was almost no point in him even being part of the plot. And that's awful, because I thought he was one of my favorite characters, and I thought his arc was super interesting, and he just gets zero payoff at all. Zero payoff. And then Ino himself, like I would like to have seen some more payoff to his character, or just some more depth to his character, because we see him like, when he enters the Squid Games, he becomes like genuinely likable, right? Like a lot of the audience, myself included, is like, yo, I kind of like this guy at this point. And then, but you're waiting for that betrayal the whole season, and that's an interesting arc. So it's just something you want to learn more about this character. Like he's just really interesting to you, and you just don't really get that ever. Like you don't really actually learn anything about this guy, at any point. And then even another thing that I don't really want to get into the Gihun stuff yet, because I have a lot to say about him too. But we finally get that like meeting between the two, where he gives him the knife, and he's like, you could just kill them and you can end this and stuff like that. Um, and Gihun proves him wrong, and says like, like, cuz like that's not him, that's not how he's going to deal with things. But it's just, that's it. Like that's their whole conversation, is he gives him the knife, and he just kind of goes, okay, and then he takes the knife, and he makes his own decision with it. But that's it. Nothing else happens. So I just find that awful because like again, like that's something that was also being built up was like, the kind of fight, the clash in ideologies between these two characters, and we never get that. We never get that moment between them where like they talk for what, like 2 minutes, 1 minute maybe, and they don't really say that much anything of substance. Like they just talk about the knife and the baby and everything. They don't talk about like who's right and who's wrong and what things should do. Like they barely talk about that, and it's just like again, it's just one of those things that you're waiting for, and there's just you don't get the payoff there, and I don't understand why. Okay, so we are finally gonna get to Gihun, who I've been. This video is running for so long; it's gonna be like half an hour at this point. I don't care though. I had a lot to rant about this show. Um, Gihun in this season, what are we doing? What are we doing? He was just so almost like honestly boring. Like this is just not the character that we had come to know through the other seasons. Like he hardly even talks through half the episodes, and I get it that it was like, oh, he thinks he failed, and he did, and everything, and it's just like he's coming to terms with that. But like it is just this season almost feels like a complete character assassination. Like it's just not the guy we knew. Like nothing that he does is in character. Like the fact that he just gives up is crazy, and the fact that he just has no motivation. Like he came there to end the games. You think he would just keep trying to end the games in some way or do something of some sort, and none of that happens. None of like he just doesn't get a satisfying conclusion to his character arc, and it's just so strange. I just don't understand why he acts the way that he does in most of that season. Like the only really payoff you get from him is when he like goes back to the side of being the hero, and it's like, whoa, he's gonna save the baby now, but that's it. Like I get that the baby is important and he made that promise, but he didn't have first of all he didn't have to make the promise, and he didn't really even do it in the first place until later. He didn't agree to it, but it's just weird that like he came there to end the games, and that was his goal, and he was like, I don't want to see any of this. I want this not to happen to anyone else ever again. And it's just weird that he gets reduced almost to just protecting this baby. And I get that the baby's important, and the baby is more of like a symbol of life, and protecting her is important, but it was like the whole reason he came there just kind of gets diminished, and nothing. And he doesn't talk. Like he's silent for half the season. Even when he starts kind of talking again, he starts protecting the baby. Like when they're doing all the whole deliberating and everything, and everyone like, who are they going to push off? And they're talking about him. He just stands in the corner with the child. Like that's all he does. And it's just so strange because in previous seasons, like that was what was able to get Gihun through it, was his personality and his charisma, was that he was able to negotiate his way through a lot of the games and find good teammates, find good people with him, even when he wasn't the strongest himself. And it's just that's what makes everything strange. Like it's just his character is just so different. And I know that he's changed after the first games, that he's all business, but he wasn't even that anymore. Like it was just got to the point where he was just almost nothing. Like the character was reduced to nothing, and just being the protector of the child. And I just thought that was really odd decision. And then finally at the end of his arc, he dies. Like they killed him. Oh my god, they killed our boy. I was so disappointed by that. Not even by the fact that he dies, but in the manner in which he died. Like I get it if they wanted to kill him off, and that could be something like, oh, that's an impactful way to end his arc. Sure, but just the way that they did it just didn't make any sense. Like he dies almost for nothing. He dies, and the baby lives, and that's but again, like that's what he was reduced to, was just protecting this baby, and that's all he's able to accomplish with his death. Like I guess you could say, like I get the point he was trying to prove. His death is a metaphor, and he was saying he was dying like um the reason he was dying was that he was like, I'm not gonna end things the way they want me to. Like I'm gonna send a message to them, and I get that. And like, don't think that I came watch this and I didn't understand the what they were doing, but it just doesn't make sense. Nothing actually really comes from that, and that's what's disappointing. His arc is just not satisfying. Like I get that the message he was trying to send, that's all great. That he wasn't gonna play their games. He wasn't, that he was like he said, like, humans aren't horse races, and stuff like that. Whatever the whole quote that he said, I understand that, and I understand the message he was sending to them, but the message isn't received. Like, at least if they could have shown some sort of like scene where, you know, where he actually had some sort of impact. Like, if the VIPs, watched him do that and went like, damn, like even, you can just see them, you see them watch it, but they don't have any reaction. Like, again, the VIPs are just, they're a whole different thing. We don't even got to talk about them, but like, I would have wanted to see his death mean something. Like, even if he died and then you could see the VIPs like kind of sit there and like maybe talk amongst themselves or something, or like, and kind of consider like, is this something we want to keep doing, right? Like, just have some sort of impact on them. I get it that it's like, oh, they're just like rich people and this is what they do, and it's like that's the whole point of Squid Game in the first place, and they're having fun with these other people's lives. But it's like, we wanted to see some sort of conclusion to his character arc, and I just wanted his death to have some sort of impact, if they were going to kill him, or honestly, I might have liked to have seen him, you know, unfortunately sacrifice the baby so that he could live on and continue his mission to end the games. Like at that point, weighing that sacrifice between the child's life and all the other lives that could have been lost by the games continuing, if he's able to escape and finally put a stop to them. That's that was something that, and the worst part about it too is, I guess the games do kind of end because they end up like blowing up the island. So at that point he dies for nothing because they end up kind of ending the games anyway because they have to blow up the island. Like, I know that they can just restart them and they'll just make probably a new island, and they tease the whole American Squid Game thing, and that's that's its own thing. We're not going to talk about that. But it's crazy just that, again, it just makes his death feel like it doesn't mean anything, because like if he if he had just waited like what, like 5 more minutes, he just wouldn't have had to die because they would have started evacuating the whole island, and then everyone leaves and there's just no impact with anything. The way he died, I just hate it. Like, it's obviously disappointing. You never want to see your main character die, but I would understand it if it was in such a way where it was impactful, and it just wasn't that to me. Like, the death just had no impact. Like, he just kind of died, and that was that. And then, he never gets to fulfill his quest. He never gets to see his daughter again. There's just so much missing. And I think that's really, that's the whole problem I have with this season, is there's just so much missing. There's so much that was built up through the past 2 seasons, and this season is just such a letdown. Like, everything that you want to happen, or everything that you think that, even that it seemed like the show wanted to happen, just doesn't end up happening. And it's just a disappointment. Like, that's why it's not even that bad of a season. It's not like, I wouldn't call it bad. It's just like there's so much, it just leaves you wanting more. That's kind of my final words on this. The season just really, it leaves you wanting more, and that's pretty much, yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope you enjoyed just me ranting about this for a while. I do really enjoy Squid Game just as a whole, but I just found this season just really disappointing. And yeah, like I said, just there's just so much that's built up that you just never get a payoff for, and it's, I don't know, and the ending kind of sucks to me. And I don't know, they're gonna do the American thing, and I'm not sure I'll actually end up watching it, but I might. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Maybe the hype will get to me again. It's just weird. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. So if you did enjoy this video and you want to see me rant about more things, I'm sure I will in the future when I watch things. But yeah, like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.